Absolute Wonder Woman issue 16, Kelly Thompson writing with Hayden Sherman on the art. So this is Zatanna, of course, by the end, comes into this with a team to take on Wonder Woman. And it's funny because halfway through the issue, when like Kale's talking about what they're doing, and they're talking about some sort of supernatural thing that's inside this team they're putting together, and they straight up say, "Hey, this isn't a mind control device that we're putting in here. This mystical thing, because it's more of like a supernatural magic spell, like, or more specifically, it's like part of like a fish person they've cut off that they can use."
They call it a parasite.
A parasite, yeah.
And the thing, and and it gives them the choice, and that's the fear is what motivates them. So it gives Kale this definite mad scientist vibe, even more so.
But during this explanation, I was like, okay, so the whole idea is that they'll just be scared of this parasite taking over their brain, so they'll obey what the parasite wants them to do, which is what Kale wants them to do. Otherwise, they're basically killing themselves. And I'm like, oh, this is just the bomb in the neck. This is Suicide Squad we're talking about here. And sure enough, when Zatanna shows up at the end of the issue, it's like, oh, this is her Suicide Squad. Now, of course, they're more Wonder Woman themed, this team. Giganta being one of them, of course. There is some kind of cheetah, it looks like. They all seem to be different people who Kale had in those cells, those experimental rooms in their Area 41.
Area 41, yeah. We got Giganta, Dr. Poison, that Kappa. I'm gonna call her a Kappa lady because there's the fish person, because there's this whole talk with her and Barbara Ann about. I was going to say the fish person, but obviously not to be confused with the water lady that came from the maze. And then a cheetah who looks like, not like our traditional cheetah where she's full cheetah. It almost looks like she's wearing a cheetah suit, like made out of cheetah skin and stuff. So there's a bit more human to her.
I don't know if I don't know. It looks to me like it's sort of like coming patchy, but it is more like I don't think it's just a suit, would be my guess right now. Especially since these are people who have all been experimented on. I suspect that there's actually some real, we've given this person cheetah-like qualities. It is worth mentioning that Barbara Ann, who of course is a character in this Absolute book as well, but Barbara Ann isn't the only cheetah in the DC universe. No. In fact, I think she's the third, I want to say. So they didn't tell us in this issue, but I fully expect that when we find out a name of this cheetah, it is probably going to match one of those other names that have been cheetah in the mainline DCU in the past. Probably. I mean, I don't know for sure, but probably. Yeah,
because the first cheetah was more like a Catwoman, where she was kind of a thief kind of character.
It was just a costume, just a costume.
Yeah, it was just a costume. So, and then the second, I'm not sure on the second one, but Barbara Ann's the one that's become the most well known over the last bunch of years. So. It could literally be any of those, but the Suicide Squad, when they started talking about, I'm gonna pull up the dialogue here again, where Kale says, the parasite will degrade quickly if they don't return. It's a death sentence, and of course we can just speed that up, speed that process up if necessary. Fear's the lever, and I went, kind of like the bomb. Like she's sounding like Waller here.
Yeah. Actually, now you've reread that, I think the most direct threat here is like, the parasite's eventually going to take over unless they come back and we give them a dose of whatever's keeping it at bay. Right. So it's more like they've been given like a disease they have to be given a cure for every 24 hours or something like that. That's more how it works, I guess. But
and if you look, because you said it might come from this fish person, but I don't think so, because it looks like there's a Starro in the jar. Next to them.
I think now that we're talking about it, and that fish person's on the team later, I guess this is just them putting it in the fish person, and that's just the example of like who is this fish person? Is every other person on the team at the end? I'm like, that's Giganta, that's a cheetah, right? We don't know which cheetah, but it's a cheetah. That's Dr. Poison, who I've met already, and I'm like, who's this fish person? I don't know who the fish is.
If I have to guess, when they're at this opening of this museum in Gateway City. It's not the opening of the museum, but they added a wing on, Greek mythology, which I would definitely go to this museum if it were real. This looks rad. So, but there's these what are they? They're like pieces off of a wall or a vase. And Diana mentions that doesn't feel Greek, but it feels similar. And Barbara Ann goes, yeah, I think these are some of your fish from the maze, but this came from the Pacific, you know? And over there, the Japanese legends call them the Kappa. And there's this queen figure that really resembles the fish lady that's on the Suicide Squad later. So I'm wondering if those are one and the same, because we do know that Area 41 was experimenting with the labyrinth and the maze and whatever, so they could have pulled from wherever. So she's here under duress too. That could be the way that Diana gets in, because of that whole parasite and her proclivity for compassion.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't even know how to begin talking about like how to like separate all the various fish and water beings that we've introduced so far. I'm sure it'll become clear as they go more into the stories with them. So yeah, there's some flashback stuff of Diana being visited by various gods, Artemis, Aphrodite, throughout the issue, and particularly being sad that I think it's Aphrodite who she's like, why doesn't she come and see me anymore? And she kind of wakes up calling her name, and that happens a couple of times. It happens when she gets knocked out later on. Well, I say knocked out, she passes out actually in the museum.
Yeah.
Which I think is just tied to Zatanna, because Zatanna's done something to hijack her magic. So I think that's all I don't think that's teasing something else. I think it's just tied to what's about to happen with Zatanna.
Because Diana even points out, she goes, my connection to my magic's gone, but it's not fully gone because I still have my arm, right? My arm that's been attached by my magic is still here. So something's up. So yeah, and then it's we find out about the binding that she had done a couple issues ago. All this stuff with Artemis, though, this might be one of my favorite versions that we've seen in DC of Artemis, right? Who in the Greek mythology, she's also one of the she's one of the virgin goddesses, and she's the goddess of the hunt. And so the fact that she has like this crown made of light that look like they're made out of like antlers from deer and whatnot, and then she shapeshifts into a chimera, right, where she has this tiger body with the snake tail, and she's fighting Diana and all of this. And when she asks, the whole point of that scene is Diana wants to ask her a question, and Artemis is like, well, beat me in a fair combat and I'll see if I can answer the question. And there's also this piece where it seems like they can't say the names of the goddesses, right? Like, because they're in hell, and like the less is said the better. So I wonder what's going on there. But eventually Diana does beat her enough that she asks how come Aphrodite hasn't come back to her, right? And that's a thing. And when you think about this Wonder Woman and what love means to her, and what Artemis represents, the goddess of the hunt and fighting and whatever, it's almost like these are the avatars that she has chosen to represent, and it's almost like she's still looking for that love, right? That love is what drives her, because Aphrodite has not come back to her, to visit her, and that's what she is striving for. She's almost like wanting that acceptance from Aphrodite. And yeah, so to see that all play out here in a very fun, like, fight sequence that Hayden Sherman, like, you get to that one page that starts as a circle, and then there's all the arcs going down.
That fight sequence is where all the fancy layouts come out in this issue in particular. Yeah. This is where you get all that stuff. Because there's no other real fights in the issue. This is the only one where it's like, hey, we've got the big white tiger, like, and all the panels keep getting smaller and smaller as the fight keeps going.
And it just, having all that stuff layered here in this fight, for what it means for Diana and what it could mean going forward here, because I feel like, as we always say with her, it's sometimes her compassion's her undoing. And I feel like with the Suicide Squad, Diana gets any indication that they're doing this stuff because they're being forced to. I feel that's the gap that they're going to exploit. And I still don't know how to feel about the Zatanna, right? Because it's Zatanna. I want to believe that she's going to be, more heroic. But it's the absolute universe, so we really don't know. You know?
I mean, it's entirely possible none of these characters were that villainous before, like, Kale got her hands on them and started experimenting. But it's also possible they are all just previously, like, criminals, at least if not outright evil, and we don't know for sure until we get more info on them. Another big sequence here is a scene with Steve in Washington making like he's it's like a deposition or whatever, and they're kind of saying, hey, you know, you're kind of siding with this outsider, right? Are you really operating in America's best interests? And he's like, I didn't betray any orders. I didn't get any orders to betray when the whole thing was going on in Gateway City. But it very much felt like, oh, the powers that be, the government are like, hey, we don't know if we trust this outsider. She's kind of powerful. She's basically a big giant weapon. And Steve's like, hey, the world, like, she was literally fighting for justice, which is what I signed up to defend in the first place when I signed up to be in military service. So her way is absolutely the right way. And like, this hearing's done, and if you want to like get any more answers out of me, you can give me a subpoena. So he kind of makes a bit of a power move here to stick up for his ideals. It does make sense to me that the government are reacting this way, and it does make sense that they immediately would be questioning, because it's funny that, you know, with all this kind of happening seemingly in a similar kind of time frame, it's interesting that Wonder Woman is the one that's the most public, where she's the most well-known out of all these characters, because Superman is relatively, well, he's darting around doing things all over the world. He's mostly known in Smallville right now.
Yeah. Well, and he's still kind of like, almost like they refer to Batman in the early Batman stories, right? He's a shadow of a whisper. Yeah. You know, and like some people have seen Superman, and I feel like in the Absolute Universe, all the people know is that there was a big fight in Kansas, right? That Lazarus ended up going there with whatever.
Diana's been on the news doing the big fights. I mean, in this issue, she goes to this, you know, she's there to cut the ribbon of the new museum wing. She's got the big scissors. She's in a dress. Like, she is public facing. She is something that the media is going to cover, that the government is going to construe and say, is she a threat? Do we have to deal with her? How do we deal with the fact that we have outsiders with this power level now? It makes sense.
Yeah, she feels like a celebrity, even though she doesn't want to be. Right? They're putting her up on this pedestal.
She even says that, like, when she's walking up to the ribbon and everyone's yelling they love her and, you know, whatever else. She even says, "Oh, I feel the potential here. I feel the desire for this adoration, and it's dangerous, and I have to, like, you know, kind of almost like remind myself not to succumb to it, because it's intoxicating, this idea of being loved by everyone. But if that's all you're there for, is to be loved by everyone, then that takes away your focus from, you know, doing the right thing and so on. And this idea of being drawn to power, which is, you know, 90% of the world's problems are people who want power and will do anything to keep or get their power. So
I want to go back to the Steve in the Senate or Congress, wherever he is, right?
Yeah.
And he's talking to the guy across from him who looks like an X-Men villain.
No, he looks like
the base suit.
No, he looks like Colonel Sanders.
Yeah, Colonel Sanders, but it doesn't say. There's like a definite vibe, like I've seen in other comics. This guy's always the bad guy, you know. But he says that when he landed there, you know, she was just defeated a building-sized monster and all its minions. There's excellent evidence that she was exactly the solution we were desperate for, right? So given his, you know, every training he's ever been had, is like, this lady just showed up, did what we couldn't. I'm supposed to find out more about her, am I? Right? Like, I did what you guys wanted, and then when you wanted to make her that she was this threat, that's when I resigned my command or his commission, you know? And so I do like that this Steve too is automatically standing up for, like, I know what you guys are up to, you know, it's not going to work on me. So that was a real fun moment.
Yeah. And it was really weird because they told him to go, if he's hungry, to go get a bucket of chicken for $9.95. It was very, very strange. But yeah, so, you know, we've kind of went out of order, but yeah, the big thing at the end is that Diana collapses. That's when we get our big flashback to the big fight with Artemis. And then when she wakes up, very quickly, you know, magic spell, portal in, and there's Zatanna with her team. And she even says the name Suicide Squad, which because even though I, at this point, was already thinking Suicide Squad, I wasn't sure if they were going to actually use the name here, but no, they straight up do. And Diana realizes that her magic's been hijacked by Zatanna, and they're face-to-face, showdown's incoming, and she has, basically, has got a giant weakness here, and she's also fighting a whole team. It's not just Zatanna, which would be bad enough in the current predicament. So, yeah, cliffhanger.
And also Dr. Poison in the new suit, right? Which is part of the conditions with Kale. Which I thought that was a nice thing here. I just feel though too that this Diana, right? Like we've made all this stuff about her magic and whatever, but she's also not afraid to get her hands dirty and throw the fists and wrap people up and do all that type of stuff too. So I do like here that there's a bit of suspense, but I'm not like, oh, what's Diana gonna do? She doesn't have access to her magic. I don't know, man. She can still swing a big sword. You know, like she's still a badass. Like what she did to Artemis on the island. You know, so I do like that. I do like that. There's still this sense like she's in trouble, but she's not, you know, in over her head.
I mean, we'll see. That's a whole team. Plus, Zatanna can fire magic at her, so we'll see how she deals with that if she can't have magic back.
The way that Zatanna talks to, keeps calling her cutie, and she's just being a complete a-hole.
Yeah, she looks like a reject that was almost in the craft, but got cut for whatever reason.
I believe on the internet they call them goth baddies. She's definitely looking like that.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's Absolute Wonder Woman. It was pretty good, as it usually is. What are you giving Absolute Wonder Woman?
I'm giving this one a 9.
Damn. What am I giving it? I it was very good. I think I'm conflicted. I think I'm just going to go with an 8 right now. I'm just going to go with an 8 for this one. It was very good. I just, you know, I'm excited to see where this story goes. I like what they're setting up with the Congress stuff, and I like what they're setting up with the Kale just straight up having a team of villains, which means we've got a few new characters to learn about next time, which is cool. I don't know if we'll get that right away, but it's something to look forward to all the same.